Here is a number that should be on the front of every one of these videos and never is. The typical Florida homeowner is now paying somewhere between $4,200 and $5,700 a year just to insure the house. Not to buy it, to keep it. So why does every list of best suburbs rank schools and restaurants and walkability and then stop dead at the exact point where the decision actually gets made? My name is Roy Baker, and I spend my working life inside Florida numbers, county by county, price by price. Today it is 10 suburbs around Tampa Bay, and I am going to tell you about each one the way I would tell a friend who rang me up and asked, who belongs there, what the house costs, what the year costs after that. The road that will quietly ruin your week. And the thing that would make me hesitate. Before we start, tell me in the comments where you are watching from tonight. Ohio, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, or somewhere out on a lanai in Pasco County with the fan going. And if one of these is already on your shortlist, say which one, because I read every single one of these. Now think about two figures before we go anywhere near a suburb. Statewide, the median Florida single-family home sold for $432,000 in June, and every county around this bay comes in under that. Hillsborough is $377,787. Pinellas is $368,443. Pasco is $331,195. Hernando is $309,981. Those are county typical values from Zillow, dated June of this year, and I will say now what I say every time I use them. A county figure tells you which neighborhood you are shopping in. It does not tell you the price of the house. Do not let anybody hand you one and call it the other. One more thing before we go. I have spread these deliberately across all 4 counties and both sides of the water, because the usual version of this video puts 9 of its 10 picks on one side of the bay and still calls itself a guide to the region. And here is the question I want you holding the whole way through. Every county I just read out is cheaper than the Florida average. So why do so many people move to this bay, buy inside their budget, and end up struggling anyway within about 3 years? It is not the purchase price. It never is. The answer is sitting in the second and third numbers, the ones that arrive every single year, and by the end of this you will be able to spot which of these 10 towns hides the worst of them. Number 1, Safety Harbor in Pinellas County. This is for somebody who wants to walk somewhere. It is a genuinely old town sitting on the water, with a main street you can stroll the length of, and a mineral spring spa that has been drawing people to that spot since long before anybody watching this was born. There are towns in Florida that were built recently to look historic. This one simply is, and on a clear evening with the light coming off the water, it is one of the most beautiful spots on this whole bay. Pinellas comes in at $368,443, and Safety Harbor tends to run a little over its county because people who find it want to stay. Now the part nobody prints. This is coastal county through and through, and where your house sits relative to the water will move your insurance number more than anything about the house itself. 2 properties, same age, same roof, 10 minutes apart, and completely different annual bills. That is the single most important sentence in this whole video, and we are only at number 1. The road is alternate 19 through town, which is pleasant, and the main 19 just east of it, which we will come back to shortly because it deserves its own paragraph. What would make me hesitate? It is small, so very little comes up for sale, and what does comes up goes fast. You will be waiting, and waiting with cash ready is very different from waiting with a house to sell first. Number 2, Palm Harbor, still Pinellas. Leafy, established, quiet, big oaks, older neighborhoods, and the beach close enough to reach on a whim without living on top of the crowds. This is the one I suggest to people who describe what they want using the word settled. Same county figure, and the older sections near the water sit well above it. Here is where I have to be blunt about something. If the roof on the house you are looking at is over about 15 years old, you are going to feel it in the insurance quote, and in some cases, you will not get a quote at all until it is replaced. That is not a Palm Harbor problem. It is a Florida problem. But it bites hardest in coastal counties like this one. Ask the roof age before you ask anything else. Before the square footage, before the kitchen, before the school district, and the road. United States 19. I promised I would come back to it. 19 through Pinellas is one of the least pleasant roads in this state. A wide, fast, signal-heavy commercial strip with a genuinely unhappy safety record for anybody on foot. Locals learn the parallel routes inside their first month. So will you, and you will use them for the rest of your life here. What would make me hesitate? You are paying an established neighborhood premium for trees and quiet. I think it is a fair trade. Just go in knowing you are making it. Number 3. Seminole, Pinellas again. And this is the one everybody drives past. Minutes from the Gulf beaches without paying beachfront prices, and far more importantly, without carrying beachfront risk. It often lands right around the county figure rather than above it, which, given where it sits, is the closest thing to an anomaly on this list. The insurance picture is better than the barrier islands and worse than anything inland, which is exactly what you would expect from somewhere near the water, but not on it. The market prices that distance carefully, and in Seminole, the distance works in your favor. What would make me hesitate? It is not charming. There is no historic Main Street, no square, no postcard. It is comfortable, practical Florida suburb. If you have spent 2 years looking at photographs of brick streets and hanging flower baskets, Seminole will feel like a compromise, even though on paper it is one of the smartest entries here. Now let me stay with that thought for a second, because it is the tension underneath this entire video. Almost everybody watching wants 2 things that pull in opposite directions. You want the pretty one, and you want the one that will not quietly drain you every year. On this bay, those are rarely the same address, and the next few are where that becomes obvious. Number 4. Sun City Center in Hillsborough County, and this one is a category all of its own. It is a large, established, age-restricted community built specifically and unapologetically for retirees. Golf carts on the street grid, clubs for everything, its own rhythm. If that is what you want, there are very few places in this country that do it as well or as cheaply. Hillsborough is $377,787, and Sun City Center regularly trades well underneath that, which makes it one of the genuinely affordable entries on this whole list. The annual picture is kinder than anything coastal, and this is where the exemptions start to matter. If you are 65 or over and your household income sits inside the limit, Florida offers an additional homestead exemption on top of the standard one, and there is a second one again for people who have held the same home 25 years. Neither touches the school portion of your bill, and both are local option, meaning the county has to have adopted them. So you telephone the county property appraiser and you ask. That one call is worth more than any video, including this one. The road is Interstate 75, which is the artery for everything down here and behaves like it. What would make me hesitate? Age restricted means exactly that. Grandchildren visit, they do not move in. And it is big enough that it can feel institutional to somebody who is picturing a small town. Number 5. Apollo Beach, Hillsborough. This one is for boat people, and I mean that literally. It is built around canals, with access straight out into the bay. And if a boat is part of your retirement, then this is one of the few places on this list that genuinely delivers it. Prices run around and above the county figure, depending entirely on whether you are on a canal. And a canal lot is a different market to the street behind it. But waterfront in Hillsborough means flood insurance stacked on top of wind coverage, and this is precisely where a comfortable budget quietly turns into an uncomfortable one. I have watched people fall in love with a canal house, do the mortgage arithmetic, feel fine about it, and then get the actual quote on the actual address and go very quiet. Get that quote first. It costs you nothing, and it will tell you whether the dream is affordable before you are emotionally committed to it. The road is Interstate 75 again, and the run north into Tampa at 7:30 in the morning is a commute rather than a drive. What would make me hesitate? A good deal of it is new build in new subdivisions, so the trees are small and the streets are wide and the character has not arrived yet. Give it 15 years and it will be lovely. Number 6. Riverview, Hillsborough. New construction, space, and a number under the state median without going an hour out of town. That is the whole pitch, and it is a strong one. It sits around the county figure, and often a little below, which is why it has grown the way it has. Inland enough that the insurance story is materially better than anything on the water. Not immune, just better, and better compounds every year you own the place. The roads are Interstate 75 and the Selman Expressway, and Riverview has grown fast enough that the road network is visibly behind the houses. That is the standard Florida pattern, and I would rather say it plainly than pretend. What would make me hesitate? It grew very quickly indeed. Some pockets are genuinely lovely, and some are still a construction site with a sales office at the entrance, and the difference between them can be one street. Drive it on a weekday, not a Sunday. Number 7. Valrico, Hillsborough. Established suburb, mature landscaping, bigger lots, and still inside comfortable reach of Tampa. This is the one for people who want the trees to already be tall, around the county figure, with the older, larger lots pushing above it. One of the better inland pictures on this list for the annual bill, for the simple reason that you are away from the water and the market knows it. The road is State Road 60, which will carry you through Brandon and onward, and which is heavy at both ends of the day. What would make me hesitate? You are firmly inland. That is exactly why the numbers work. It also means the Gulf is an outing rather than an evening stroll, and in August you will notice the complete absence of any sea breeze at all. Number 8. Wesley Chapel in Pasco County. The newest housing stock on this list and the most amenity for the money. Pasco, at $331,195, is the second lowest county here, and Wesley Chapel is a large part of why people move into Pasco at all. Inland and north, so the annual picture is one of the more comfortable ones we have looked at. The roads are State Road 54 and Interstate 75. 54 is the one you will hear about, because the development along it has outrun the lanes by several years, and everybody who lives there has an opinion about it. What would make me hesitate? It is still in the process of becoming a place. If you want somewhere with a history and an old main street and a bit of accumulated character, this is not that, and it will not be for another 20 years. Number 9. Trinity, also Pasco. Manicured, planned, quiet, and one of the more polished addresses in that county, which is why it sits above the Pasco figure. Reasonable on the annual side, with one caveat I want to make sure lands. A homeowners association fee is a third bill, alongside the tax and the insurance, and it is the one people forget to add up until the first letter arrives. Add it now, while you are still shopping. The roads are Little Road and the Suncoast Parkway, and the Suncoast is honestly one of the better pieces of road in the whole region. What would make me hesitate? Planned communities come with a rulebook. A great many people love that and sleep better for it. A great many others arrive after 40 years of doing exactly as they pleased with their own house, and discover in month 2 that they do not. Number 10. Spring Hill in Hernando County. If your first constraint is the budget, this is your answer. Hernando is $309,981, the lowest county figure here, and Spring Hill is the volume market inside it. It also carries the friendliest annual bill on this list. Lower values mean lower tax, and being inland and north means the insurance conversation is simply easier than anywhere else we have discussed. The Suncoast Parkway is what makes Spring Hill workable at all. United States 19 is what makes people leave. What would make me hesitate? You are the furthest out, and hospital access is thinner here than in Hillsborough or Pinellas. That matters more with every year that passes. Ring the 2 nearest practices in whatever specialty you actually use and ask whether they are taking new patients. Do it before you buy, not after. So who wins? If the budget speaks first, it is Spring Hill, Wesley Chapel, and Sun City Center, in that order. And Sun City Center is the one I would look hardest at if the age restriction suits you, because you are not just buying a house, you are buying an entire ready-made social life, and at 68, that is worth more than most people admit. If quality of life speaks first, and you can stretch, it is Safety Harbor and Palm Harbor. Go and walk both on an ordinary weekday before you decide anything. And if the question is the one I opened with, what is this going to cost me every year for the rest of my life, then the answer is inland and north, every single time. That is the whole finding. Around this bay, the real difference between a waterfront house and an inland one is not the price on the listing. It is the renewal letter that lands every year afterwards, forever, long after the house is paid off. Which brings me back to where we started, and to those 3 people a year I speak to who did everything right on paper and are now quietly working out whether they can afford to stay. Not one of them overpaid for the house, every one of them underestimated the year. The insurance market is moving right now, and moving in your favor for the first time in a decade, but a renewal letter is still the single most expensive envelope that will ever land on your mat in this state. Open the quote before you open the front door. Now, I left one obvious town off this list on purpose. It is on the Pinellas side, it is full of breweries and dog-friendly pubs, and I have praised it on this channel before. I already know some of you are typing its name. Go on then, tell me which one I missed, and tell me whether I have got any of these 10 badly wrong. Because the people who actually live on these streets always know something the county averages never will. If you want the wider version of this, I keep a list of 40 Florida towns. 20 I would buy into, and 20 I would walk straight past, with the real carrying costs written beside each one. It is called the Florida Buy and Avoid List, and the link sits in the description. Subscribe if you want the rest of these, because I go through this state town by town every week, and I would rather you found the real number before you signed than afterwards. I am Roy Baker. Next time I am taking apart a video going around at the moment claiming you can buy a house in North Florida for $19,000, and I am going to show you what those exact towns actually cost, because the real number is not remotely close.